and welcome to Resilience Matters, another one of our LinkedIn Lives. And it's great when we have guests, isn't it, Kathy? But also it's nice sometimes when it's just the two of us.
Totally.
Yeah, so it's just the two of us today, and it's that time of year. It's a feeling, I haven't been to school for a very, very, very long time. But there's a sense of it's like the end of a school year. It's like the end of term. We're just getting to that point now where, we feel like, oh, we can breathe a little bit. We can relax. And it's been a tough old couple of years for people to deal with. And I think, one of the things about that is actually how important it is sometimes to stop and to think about how far you've come and where we've got to go. And we were particularly struck when it came out in May by a post by Brené Brown. And if any of you watching this have not come across Brené Brown, I can't recommend her enough. She's a wonderful woman who talks about vulnerability and being our true selves. And she said that she had just decided for herself and her business in May that they were going to take a pause for breath and a pause for space. And they took a 3-month sabbatical. And I just remember looking at that and going, good for you. Good for you for recognizing the value of that. It's amazing, isn't it? To just go, that's bold and courageous, isn't it?
It is. And I think, but also a very privileged position to be in as well, I guess, to be able to take 3 months out like that. But yeah, I totally agree. And if you think when we done the interview with Roger Martin, he was very much about, you need to quieten your mind to let that creativity in and that space to really do some self-reflection and learning, which I think that all plays into, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's slowing down to the pace of your thoughts, which is a weird one because I've always thought my thoughts are like ching, ching, ching. But yeah, he was like, slow down to the pace of your thoughts. So with all this, what we decided is, well, how can we take some of the best practice on that? So we have decided to do August differently, to take away some of the structure that we always have in our lives. Kathy and I have regular meetings, to give August space to be something a little bit different.
Yeah. And I think it's great that we're having this creative month, but I guess as a working parent as well, something that's brilliant. And, there is something about taking a step back. And even recently having news of a friend dying, taking that space to go, actually, let's spend some time with the children. Let's make some memories. Think about the things that bring you joy. So I guess I have that added lens as well. It's a creative month, but actually a month where I can spend time with my children and creating those happy memories. And funny enough, I know we've spoken about this before, but I've always had this sense of guilt, years of like guilt. My kids are very good. They never come into my office. Probably on cue now, they'll come in now. But but all of those rules. And I do think it's slightly different now as well, with employers given flexibility to working parents. So that pressure that you felt before of having an activities week for your children, and I do feel there's a sense of good employees, helping working parents, particularly mothers, have that flexibility so that they can still have, meaningful work, but also fulfilled lives with their children. You can have both. So I do feel that flexibility kind of lifted a little bit as well in school holidays. So I do feel slightly different this year, actually.
And I think that's a really good point. And I think there's a thing about almost like there's no excuse anymore to say that you can't still work but do it differently. And I think of a meeting I was involved in a couple of weeks ago, and 5 of us were in the room. Brilliant technology. I loved it. It's like there's little cameras that like scan you and like put you up on the screen. But we had a couple of people who weren't there, and it didn't matter because the contribution was the same for everybody. But that, you know, in both cases, they were like, it's ridiculous, Nick, me getting in a car for 2 hours to drive to for a 2 hour meeting and then getting a car for 2 hours on the way back. Quality time, you know, we can do things differently. And I think, yeah, now hopefully that then lends itself to working parents or carers, which is, you know, the other side of this. Or the carers, obviously, it's a 365 day of the year thing, but we've got technology, we can make it support us a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. And also, I want to caveat that I do feel for working parents, particularly if they've got babies or you know, children crawling around the floor. Obviously, I'm kind of past that stage, so that does give me a little bit of added flexibility. But yeah, totally, it has made us relook at things, and I think it's made it easier to do things like this creative month, or to step back for a while as well, and or you know, typically merge that, you know, work and look after your family.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and I said to you earlier today, and I was like, the next LinkedIn Live we do is going to be the other side of this, and it's like, well, what have we got from it? And I think one of the things that strikes me is that when you do things other than sitting in front of a laptop, sometimes, you know, thoughts pop up. You know, you look at things, you're getting different perspectives, you know. So I think there is something about, even though you might think you're not working, your head will still be open to possibilities and looking at things in different ways.
And it's that subconscious thought, isn't it? If you think, when your thoughts come to mind, it's when you're driving, it's when you know, where you're not going, right, next email, right, what's next on my list. It's when you're deep in a little bit more into that 95% of our brain that we don't use, you know, that when we're connecting with that. And I think that's the point, isn't it? Slowing down and moving into that space that allows you to move into that more subconscious level, where we've all got ideas and thoughts, but we never take the time to listen to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about like that space, and you know, just what is likely to happen with that space. And I was exploring an idea that came out through NLP, and it made me realize this is probably one of these things where you and I are different. That when we look at things, and you know, when we think about, okay, so you know, what motivates us when it comes to, say, growth. And this is what we're hoping for, isn't it? We're hoping for like growth, you know, whether it's personal growth or growth for the business, you know, the things that motivate us can be different. And there's this one angle where, say, some people are very motivated by sameness and some people are motivated by difference. And it struck me as like, are we like, you know, are you motivated by the new or the improved? And I know for me, when I'm looking at things, I'm always wanting to improve it. I mean, I'm terrible when it comes to designing, for example, a training program, because I will come out of every single time that I run that program and go, make this little tweak. And I used to make a promise to myself, don't do that. But I still do it. There's something in me that always go, little bit improvement, step improvement. That's kind of, for me, how I get that growth. But I'm sensing it's not the same for you.
Yeah, I'm probably less tweaking, I've got to be honest, and more not rip up and start again, but that's not what let's do something different. What do you know what I mean? And it's funny, we've talked about this with ourselves, going, oh, that's shiny. And how that can derail you, going, oh, that
yes.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it as well. But maybe my transformation background is part of that. I don't know, but I do enjoy going, right, if we had a blank piece of paper, we had to rip it up and start again. I'm probably more of that mindset, if I'm honest, than maybe yourself. But that's interesting, isn't it? And understanding what motivates us in that way, and what, you know, and what stabilizes us. And I guess, see, just as we're saying that, there's a piece around that. I wonder if there's something about the fixed and growth mindset, though, in recognizing what is something that motivates you versus making sure it's not something that's just keeping you in the comfort zone.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you implying that my new and improved tweaky kind of idea
No,
is a fixed?
Not at all. I don't think that at all. I think it's just recognizing, because I'm just thinking somebody could listen to this and go, oh yeah, I just like to make small nudges. And I think it is just recognizing actually that is what motivates and drives me, and making sure everything that I can do is new and improved, versus it's not because you're not doing something because it feels too hard or too out of the.
Oh yeah. Oh, that.
Do you know what I mean? And
yes, I think you're absolutely right there.
Do you know what I mean? I think it's just recognizing that, because that could be confused as to that's motivating, or is it just, you know, your mind keeping you safe? You know.
No, I think it yeah, you're right. And you know, it's like one of my old adages, which I'm sure I've mentioned before, is that whole thing about I'm better than I was yesterday, but not as good as I will be tomorrow. And that's very much been mine, that you never want to stay as you are. You know, and so that's why I am the world's greatest tweaker. Because there's always room for improvement. There's always. But then, you know, I remember one of the things I used to be in the dim and distant past, I used to work for at JP Morgan. I used to work in investment banking. And I'm going to be absolutely honest, I kind of knew whilst I could do it, it wasn't lighting my life up. And I remember lots of people were saying to me, like, oh, you should go into teaching, because mum was a teacher. And they're like, you should go into teaching. And I do remember, I was like, I see what you're saying, but I need to find a way to do it in small steps, so that actually, particularly because I had a mortgage, so that actually I get there, and it might take me a bit longer, but I haven't got the same level of jumping in risk. You know, whereas some people I know, you know, probably you, if somebody, you know, would be like, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to jack my job in, and I'll go and train to be a teacher. And as it was, I was really lucky that I ended up getting involved in Investors in People and getting into training. So as I always say to my mum, I was like, I'm just an adult teacher. That's what I do, you know. And but I got there in little steps along the way, and I could see that I was getting to where I wanted to be, but I didn't have to go boing and jump off a cliff. And I think that's, for me, yeah, that motivation is that, okay, yeah, I'm getting there, I can see it, and I like to feel that I've achieved something, not quite on every day, but you know, on that sort of like on that little level. So that's probably why tweaks work for me as well, and going for that sort of improved thing of that's. Yeah, I think that's probably historically always been how I've shifted. So you look at my career and it goes, God, you did all sorts of different things. Never did any of them quickly.
And that's interesting, isn't it? As mine's probably been more bouncy, if that's the right terminology. But also, if you think about our thinking habits about being motivated and driven, which probably comes into this, we've talked about this before in some of our training, where I'm motivated by the destination, and you're more motivated than, you know,
by
on
the journey.
And putting things off and moving. And again, that plays into that, doesn't it? And for people to understand, like you say, what does motivate them, and if it is the destination, using things like visualization and imagining what it will feel like when you're getting there, you know, as you might be more about, right, yeah, look, I'm progressing, I'm getting there, look,
yeah,
look at where
I've come. A bit of progress is a great thing. So it's about how we use this space, isn't it? Like for us and for anybody else, you know, when you've got a bit of time and a bit of space, you know, how can you give yourself that opportunity and even listen to the things that come up as well? You know, I'm going to throw this back to you in a second about your favorite topic of journaling, because I reckon there's going to be some gems coming out of both of our brains over the next few weeks as we allow ourselves to be attracted to more shiny things, maybe go down a few more rabbit holes than we would normally allow ourselves on the internet. You know, it's like, how do we capture all the thoughts and ideas, or how would somebody else capture thoughts and ideas when they give themselves space?
As you say, I know I'm an avid journaler. I mean, I don't even know whether this fits into the camera, but I have an array of books for journaling or capturing different things. But I'm massive fan of journaling, and that is, you know, to actually understand yourself. So that might be not just practical ideas that come in, but you know, if we think about coaching is really just holding up the mirror and just saying, that's interesting, tell me more about that, or what made you say that, or you know, that sounded emotive, you know. And but actually journaling is almost a way to do that, and not rationalizing it. It's going, oh, I had a bit of a reaction to that, that's interesting, you know, approaching it with interest, so you can then go back to it and think, what's driving that, you know, or do a reality check on it, go, Kathy, that's just ridiculous, that's just your protector part showing up because you don't want this to happen. So I would say write down all your thoughts, all your ideas, but actually go back with an open mind, not to judge yourself. Yeah, we've all got a different map of the world, but to go back and really understand what's driving that. And especially, you know, I do a lot of work, you know, about my values, or you know, you find out quite a lot about yourself, you know, why I think, oh, that's why that didn't sit well with me, because so massive fan of journaling, and but as long as you approach it with curiosity and not judgment, you know, but it's not judging yourself and your thoughts, it's just being interested in them to find out more about yourself and your thinking.
So that, yeah, and that, you know, that leads us into our, well, not leads us in, but that's our second habit, isn't it? That's about like valuing and caring for yourself. That, yeah, it's great to put all this stuff down, but as you say, go with curiosity, not judgment. You know, whatever's there is there. Those are just, you know, your thoughts, and reflect on them. And yeah, it's all part of giving yourself space to breathe, space to grow, and you know, looking after yourself. And I guess, you know, you don't have to have a creative August to do something like that, but you know, you're just giving yourself that little bit of time, because yeah, we are lucky. I know, you know, running our own businesses, we can make a few more choices than lots of people can make, and there'll be lots of, I mean, God, I wouldn't fancy working at an airport or at the you know, the ports and all that sort of stuff at the moment. I mean, that's really tough for them. How do they find that space to breathe? What can we recommend for them?
I still think everyone can find time for reflective practice, to be honest. I know, I think we all live busy lives, but maybe it comes down to routines again, or just when something pops in our head, to make sure we do note it down, speak to it in our phone, however you want to capture that, and come back to it later. You know, we all sleep, we all have routines. So we live, everyone, you know, not everyone, but, you know, we all live busy lives in some form or other, whether that's parenting, like you said, caring, working. A lot of people, you know, in this day and age, we know the pace of change is huge, but it is making sure you find time. And that might just be when you're brushing your teeth. You might say, you know what? And, you know, again, creating a habit that says, when I brush my teeth, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say my mantra, or I'm going to really think about what's important about my day. I'm going to do my gratitude, whatever it is that works for you, building it into existing habits potentially.
Yeah, building some of those good habits. Yeah, the little thing. And breathing. I mean, I know the kids call it the Christmas tree when I do this thing, and I'm like, hand breathe. But just sometimes, just to stop and breathe. You know, you don't have to give yourself hours of space. You can give yourself a minute.
Yeah, exactly. You can always, you know, like you said, isn't it only something like 30 seconds you need to reset like that? You know, just breathe for 30 seconds and just empty your mind. Like you say, it doesn't have to be, I haven't got to put hours aside for meditating to do that necessarily.
Just a little moment. And yeah, building them in. You know, we're quite a lot about habits, aren't we? And I think I always remember the story of Chris Evans, who is a bit like Marmite, let's face it. And I'm not going to say whether I like Marmite or not. And he's a very, very, very busy man. I used to listen to him on the radio, and he always had his fingers in so many pies and did so many different things. And somebody asked him one day about, like, you know, how do you manage to do everything? And he said, because he had some core things in his life that he did all the time, that he had like a foundation of a really sort of strong routine of things that mattered. And because he did all those sorts of things, it actually then freed him up to be creative and to come up with new ideas, and to, because he knew that he cracked the foundation, that he got all the things that he needed. And I sometimes think about our habits like that you know, if you get our habits instilled in you at that unconscious level, because that's what a habit is, it's an unconscious competence. If you can get those habits in there and get them instilled, then it does free you up and, you know, give you the ability and the confidence to do so much more with what is a challenging world out there.
Oh, totally. And it's interesting because I'm just reflecting what we said on this call. On the one hand, we're saying break habits and use this time for reflection and learning, but equally the importance of habits when you're building and things as well. But totally, if you can get some of your thinking habit, you know, we call them thinking habits or cognitive habits intentionally, because you have to keep thinking and acting and doing until it is instilled in them, then it won't, you know, you don't have to think about it. You know, we talk about, particularly, you know, when we train and we talk about positivity, if you can act as if, eventually you don't have to act as if. You will naturally, that will be your go-to place, you know. So, you know, habits massively important. And yeah, interesting, Chris Evans recognise that, and maybe them habits on the pieces that are important.
And I think, habits we want, it's the breaking routine. I think that's what we're doing with the way we do, you know, because, and, you know, shout out to Sam Conniff, who was at the Newcastle People Power Conference with us. And he did a talk on uncertainty, didn't he? And he was saying that all you have to do is like track people's phones for 3 months, and a computer can pretty much predict where you'll be and what you'll be doing at any point, because we are such creatures of routine. And it's like, break out of that sometimes, you know, just allow yourselves to do it differently, because who knows what it might open up for you.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, this period, although this is kind of to tell our network, you know, obviously that we are taking a break, you know, that, you know, to try and help other people to think about taking time out to think about, you know, to have some reflection and think about where you've come, where you've learned. I mean, like you say, school's out for summer, it almost feels like New Year's kind of eve and new objectives and goals and things. But, you know, think about where you've come, what your goals are. You know, think about what's brought you joy and what hasn't. If you haven't got joy, then, you know, how you're going to find that, and you know, and what's serving you or not. And, you know, just really what's important to you. You know, I think that's an ideal time to do that, and that's certainly what I'm going to be doing, without a doubt. Looking, I know there's a few things I've thought about that have popped into my head, and I've allowed them to pop out again. A few shiny things that I want to polish off again, shall we say, and really think about a bit of a reset. And that's what this is, really, isn't it? A bit of a reset, to some degree. So I think, you know, so important. And what about you?
I think the only slight difference is that actually, August for me is always a time when, as a trainer, you go, well, people don't want training. So I always see it as like a creative time. It's always been, you know, other than tweaking, it's the time to create stuff, because you can get into that headspace. So I'm quite looking forward to that idea of going, okay, what can we do? You know, there's, you know, because there are so many things out there. Watching videos, I don't know about you, but I have piled up like all these videos of people who are doing things, and I'm like, okay, they're all sitting in a folder at the moment. To be fair, there's way too many for me to watch them all, but just to watch them for inspiration, you know, just to see what other people are thinking and doing. So yeah, I'm quite excited on that sort of creation side of it, in terms of what else can we give people that will help them to build that resilience and that mental strength. What else can we add to the website? What can we come out with as we go into autumn, although I hate that word. So that's something I'm looking for. And also, and yes, there will be gratuitous photos, even potentially over August, playing with kittens.
Yes,
because I've got new kittens, new members of the I've Got This team. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of playing with kittens, but it's good for you playing with kittens, so that's fine.
Yeah. Totally. So I think, you know, our plan is just for our network. We are going to do some replays of our LinkedIn, some of the LinkedIn lives we've done this year, particularly ones that we think would be really useful to people who had lots of hints and tips in. We're going to start the first one. Not that we told Georgina yet. Sorry, George, if you're listening to this. Georgina Cavassi, who done a lot of talk about mindset and setting out in the road of work. And I think certainly for them school leavers and grads who are now looking for that, I think that would be really worth a replay.
Yeah.
And some other handy ones. And I think it's also worth noting that we will continue to do LinkedIn lives, but we've got something else coming up which Alison will talk about. But if there's something that you think that would be really interesting, I'd love to know more about that, even if it isn't within our remit, we've got a large network that we can call on. So we're always willing to interview people on these lives that help other people, and that's why we do these, to help people improve mindset. So please do reach out to us if there's something that you would think would be of real benefit, and we'll get a speaker on. So
yeah, absolutely, we will do that. And exciting news for September will be that you'll see a build up towards our Surfing the Waves of Change Learning Week, which is going to be in October in aid of Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's going to be a free event. We've been talking to some great individuals who are going to come along and share their thoughts on how they've learned to surf, how they've learned to manage change, some tools and tips, some inspirational stories. So it's been great already putting that together, and I can't wait for it to actually run. It's going to be superb. So, we will let people know more about that definitely in September. We will be moving our LinkedIn lives to Friday because we felt actually more people seem to be available on a Friday for doing that. So our LinkedIn lives will be there. So keep an eye out for those. But yeah, surfing the waves of change. That's our big theme coming up for September and October.
Yeah, and that's all to support Mental Health Awareness Month in October. So we will be doing this week of activity. So we really, again, hope that we help people and people listening to it. But over the summer period, if you do want to gem up, obviously, please do go to our website. I'll pull it up. On there, we've got things like 101 ways to build mental strength. And your resilience. There's something in there for everybody around the 6 thinking habits. So there'll definitely be some things that you could build along there. We have our explore page on there again, loads of free resources, free assessment tools to look at some of those thinking habits. So and also obviously our YouTube channel where we host all of our videos. So go in, have a look, and unless there's anything we've missed, have an amazing summer. And
look after yourself in whatever way, whether you're working or not. Make sure you value and care for yourself.
Totally. Well, enjoy the summer then, and you take care.
Bye.
Bye.